I want to ask to Anne, Claire, 3 questions, very brief. First of one is that our academician, that is the chief of the new task force of the International Organization of Health, to promote donation of organs and to eradicate trafficking of organs, say to me each time that the problem in his country, because he belonged to New England and is professor at Harvard and is doctor in the Massachusetts hospital, is that it's not put as trafficking, the traffic of organs. It's not explicitly right that is trafficking, the traffic of organs. This is very important to add in the American laws, the traffic of organs. First. Second, what is your idea about the Nordic model? Because we not understand what is the reason that the Anglo-Saxon people don't want, and it's not one country, to have the Nordic model. Maybe because they consider that the modern Nordic is socialist or some kind of this. I don't understand. And the 3 question is, I forgot. Something, but after I come back. Please, to have 2 questions.
Okay, sure, I'll continue. So, is it on a different thing, or should we start with the remaining subject, or you just, okay, then I just give our colleague the floor for a second, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. My answer is on the 3rd question from the last discussion, where it was indicated how the judges can make the environment conducive to the victims. My point is, a judge cannot be able to make the environment conducive to the victim, especially a witness who has not been prepared. So it is a duty of the prosecutor and the investigating officer and the other stakeholders like the social services to prepare a witness before they come to court. In that case, where a witness is prepared for court, then the judge will be able to make the environment conducive to the witness. What is it that I'm talking about? Immediately when a victim is rescued, what William was talking about, that prosecution guided investigation, because most of us, we don't want to use led investigation, but guided or annexed investigations. So once a victim is rescued, there should be the involvement of the social services and the prosecution. So with the social services, they will identify the needs of the witness, the needs of the victims. On this will depend on what type of exploitation was being made to the victim. So once that is established, then a witness needs will be covered. And then our court preparation will start immediately. So by the time this victim appears before a judge, it becomes easier for a judge to deal with that witness. Because it is unfair to bring a witness who's not been prepared, and then you expect the judge to be able to control that witness or to be able to make environment easier for that witness, because preparing for a witness for court, it takes a long time because it has a psychological effect. So I think the answer is that preparation should be done by the relevant stakeholders from the beginning before they go to court.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. That is a very good opening statement to this part of our discussion. I think you raise a very important point that it won't be, and I don't think this was meant by our colleague from Pakistan, that it would exclude the responsibility of the prosecution and the investigating officers in this responsibility. It is just, with her example, it was one simple thing that within a courtroom setting could be done to make it easier for a victim in the courtroom to testify. But you are absolutely right, and I think most of us will agree, independent of legal systems, that a judge cannot be the one conducing a witness to be willing to testify. There may be things that can make it easier in court, procedural measures. But
Just to clarify,
Yeah.
what I mean is a witness before it is brought before a judge, it needs to be prepared so that it is easier for the judge to deal with that witness.
Okay, right. I'm going to collect additional comments now. One thing I would like to ask for, because we do have some extensive discussing to do, that you limit your discussion contributions to 2 minutes. I will look at the watch a bit on this as well, okay? So we're going to, I have Ms. Owuzu. No. First, I had our colleague from, the first one was our colleague from Benin who had raised her hand, and then I will go to you over, and then I have, oh, yes, I have Judge Nyako as well. We'll write everyone down. Okay, 2 minutes, please, each.
Oui, je vous remercie. C'est juste une préoccupation à l'endroit des collègues du Nigeria. Il y a 4 ans, une affaire a défrayé la chronique. Ce matin, on a beaucoup parlé du sort des victimes, mais également de la coopération. En 2014, il y avait des bébés qui avaient été volés au Nigeria par la femme du président de l'Assemblée du Burkina Faso, et ils ont fait de faux papiers au Bénin. Donc, c'était un dossier qui avait concerné les 3 pays. Je voudrais savoir si, en temps, il y a eu une action au Nigeria pour retrouver, par exemple, la mère de ces bébés, parce que ces 2 jumeaux, ils sont encore au Bénin, et à un moment donné, les gens ne savaient pas trop quels sont réservés à ces enfants. Donc, je voudrais savoir s'il y a eu une suite par rapport à cette affaire procédurale au Nigeria, pour que, éventuellement, si la mère a été retrouvée ou existait, qu'on puisse voir dans quel cadre procéder au rapprochement de ces enfants et de leur maman. Je crois que j'ai été comprise. C'est une question à mes collègues du Nigeria. Je vous remercie.
Oh, okay. If I may suggest on that, if the translation was correct, that may be something, unless it can be answered very quickly by one of the Nigerian colleagues in a minute, that this is something that could also be dealt with extensively bilaterally. But I don't want to, maybe it can be clarified in a minute by Judge Nyako. So if that's the case, then I would give you the floor now, yeah?
Well, I really don't see how we, as judges, can interfere in that. Unfortunately, the Director General of NAPTIP, which is the agency responsible for the trafficking in person, was not able to come. She would have been in a better position to say something. We are not security agencies. We have not been investigating the case. We're also waiting for the outcome of the investigation so that we'll also know who the mother is. So really, we cannot, I don't think any of us here will be competent enough to give you an answer for that.
Okay, so then that answers that for now. Would you like to add something on the other question, Judge Nyako?
Well, I could just make my own presentation on the sensitivity of the trafficking cases and witnesses. I think every judge is responsible for your court. And I think what I thought the speaker, Aisha, was trying to say is that every judge could easily adjust your court setting so that it now becomes like a family court setting when you are dealing with that. We know that the family court setting is slightly different from what we have in our regular adversarial courts. You try to make it look softer, if soft is the right word. And in Nigeria, we also have provisions for screening witnesses. You could wear masks, you could camouflage the witnesses. It's coming in gradually, but it is coming in. And you have just a way in which you see, importantly, these traffickers have their agents in court. Sorry, forgot I was speaking English. These agents have their traffickers in court, and they have signals that will show, get rid of this person or do that. So if you screen off the public from the witnesses, and you just adjust your courtroom, make your witnesses maybe coming through the judge's entrance, and then maybe, and the defendants are on one side as much as possible, demarcate the court in such a way that they are not interacting or interfacing with each other. This is something completely within the powers of the judge. All you need to do is adjust your court setting. We have done it, I have done it, and I think it's easy. And also one thing that happened a long time ago when I had a very small witness, a child witness who was very scared, I first of all emptied the court. It was a last case hearing, so that the court was empty. It's just the people involved in the case that were there. And before they came into court, I had offered the girl a little sweet to calm her down. She was like 4 going on 5. And by that time, she was free. So it was easier for her to testify, to come into the court, not even to testify. It was just something that needed corroboration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So I have on my list, my eyesight is not so good. I have Mariana Owuzu, I have Rosalind. Do you want to?
Oh, it's just something small. I mean, about making things easier. Not to tell the witness what to say, but I thought, you can even hear the case in camera in your chambers, or, like Binta is saying, hear the case last when everybody is gone, so that you only have those involved in that particular case, so that at least the witness is calmed down and he can say whatever he wants to say. If you need to go into chambers to hear the case, you can also do that. I mean, I don't think nothing prevents you from, doing that. It's not about making it easier as to tell the witness what to say, but the courtroom setting. If you think, the gallery is just too much and the person is, timid, he is afraid, you can hear the case in your chambers or hear the case, the last, after everybody is gone, the last case and the witnesses. That's all that making it easier, means, and not necessarily telling the witness or what to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will take Rosalind, then I have our colleague from Cape Verde, and then over here. Oh, sorry. No, you and then, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
So Rosalind and then Ms. Fernandez.
Yeah, thank you very much. I would like to laud our sisters from Zambia on the efforts they are making. Now, I would like to, on the issue of shuttling cases from the magistrates to the High Court for sentencing, we had that practice in Kenya, and to ameliorate the problems and to overcome the hurdles, what we started was enhancing the jurisdiction of senior magistrates through cassettlement of those powers, so that once a case is completed, then the magistrate has the power to pass the sentence that a High Court judge would have passed. That can assist. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Our colleague, Luisa.
Vou pronunciar-me em relação à questão de colocar a vítima mais à vontade, o que é que o juiz deve proceder. Eu estou a ficar preocupada com as nossas intervenções e aquilo que planeamos fazer em termos de resultado de julgamento. Por quê? Porque apesar de estarmos a tentar facilitar a resolução das coisas, nós somos juízes e, sob pena do nosso julgamento depois ser capaz de se levantar alguma suspeição, eu concordo com a colega da Nigéria. No meu país, nós dizemos assim, cada juiz é um tribunal. Porém, o envolvimento do juiz na causa deve ser o mais restrito possível. Também vou concordar com a colega que disse que pode-se arranjar melhores condições. Eu trago a minha experiência porque eu sou juíza da família. E muitas vezes, quando sempre sentimos que numa ação que parece ser de divórcio tenha violência doméstica ou questões mais sérias, nós preparamos a equipe no sentido de, se for, por exemplo, tráfico que envolve violação sexual, nós colocamos a equipa só de senhoras na sala. Podemos nos organizar no sentido. Se for questões que envolvem a dignidade da pessoa, o que tem que haver é uma colaboração agradável com o Ministério Público e o próprio pessoal. A juíza não aparece, senão o advogado vem levantar suspeição, vai dizer que é mulher e que está com um comportamento preferencial. No sentido, nós devemos preparar as condições do tribunal, mas sem o envolvimento declarado, porque senão podemos tomar uma decisão que possa ser contra a qual se levanta uma suspeição e tudo o que tenhamos feito não produza os efeitos que se pretende. Obrigada.
I just wanted to give.
She was first.
I just wanted to give an experience that we've just recently gone through with women judges in Malawi in making the courts more victim-friendly. One of the things that we're doing is we're running a project called gender-based violence, and on gender-based violence. And what we did was we sat down with our court users, as you put them, and asked them, what are we doing that doesn't make us victim-friendly? And they even highlighted which areas of the aspects that we're not doing. So what they asked us to do was to develop what they're calling minimum standards of care for gender-based violence victims or survivors or witnesses that are coming to court. So what we've done is we've created that minimum list. So the minimum list goes to not only us judicial officers, but it goes to our judicial staff workers. So for instance, if they meet a cleaner, if they meet a clerk, whoever they meet, what are the minimum standards of care that they should be able to give to every witness and every victim that comes through our courts? So from language to where they're allowed to sit, all those things, all we're saying is that contributes to making the environment safer and avoiding re-victimization. So the judiciary can do that. And it's something that we should think about, because we do forget all those kind of things when we look at. So it's just not the judicial officers that can make them feel safe. It's the whole environment, so to speak. I just wanted to highlight that.
Thank you. Very, very important point, because there are different actors involved, and there need to be different actors involved. Yes, Cap Verde.
Thank you. Obrigada. É só para fazer uma pequena referência. Cabo Verde tem uma previsão legal no Código de Processo Penal de que os julgamentos são públicos. Entretanto, o próprio Código de Processo Penal prevê exceção, ou seja, o julgamento deixa de ser público quando trata de questões relacionadas com a dignidade da pessoa, portanto, a sua intimidade privada, que englobam os crimes sexuais. E, nesses casos, normalmente, os julgamentos já não são públicos, as pessoas deixam de assistir, não há plateia no julgamento. E também pode ser, e é estendido, nesses casos, até os crimes de tráfico de pessoas. Normalmente, o tribunal, também por previsão legal, pergunta à testemunha ou à vítima se quer prestar declarações na presença do arguido, ou seja, do acusado. Antes de entrar na sala, se ela disser que não quer, o acusado, o arguido, é retirado da sala e a testemunha fala sozinha perante o juiz, o advogado e o procurador, obviamente. E isso são técnicas que nós abusamos até com crianças que são vítimas de crimes sexuais. E também tem uma outra questão que o Código de Processo Penal prevê, que é o depoimento antecipado, para evitar a dupla vitimização das pessoas ofendidas, ou seja, ela é ouvida antecipadamente, antes do julgamento, perante um juiz, perante um procurador, perante a defesa, e no dia de julgamento ela não é obrigada a estar presente porque é válida a declaração prestada antes da fase de julgamento. Obrigada.
Thank you very much. We will continue the discussion in a second. I just want to, everybody has received a draft copy. It's been disseminated. Just for your information, the larger bulk text summarizes some of the thoughts that have been voiced here. And on the next page, there have been bullet points included, which shows, which highlight some of the main issues that have come up in almost every presentation here across the past 2 days. So they are in bullet points at the moment to make it easier to see what the participants have found relevant, just for your explanation. I would like to ask the organizers of this venue, would you like us to continue with this theme? Would it be okay to continue a bit with the theme we're discussing now? It's an important issue. Or would you rather, Susanna, have us turn to the draft declaration now? What would you like?
I think that we need to hear the replay of Anna, and after we go to the conclusion. Yeah, because his speech is very important. You need the replay. Yeah, thank you.
So then I would give Judge Williams the floor, and then we would move on to this. But within the discussion of the draft, I welcome those who have not been called to participate now in the last discussion to raise that issue again. Okay, so you will be called on.
Another suggestion is that some person to as mother language English read, for example, Gabriela, read the statement, so all people can understand the text, because, or you read.
And then it gets translated. Yeah, that's a very good.
Yeah.
So on this question of the U.S. adopting the Nordic model as it relates to prostitution, because the United States is divided into 50 states, I'm just being real candid in terms of how this is handled. Prostitution is, issues and laws are decided on a state-by-state basis. A state-by-state basis, and as you know, in Las Vegas, prostitution is legal. So I think it has to do with political will. I think it has to do with politics. I think it has to do with moral beliefs and values, because America is not one monolith in terms of beliefs. And so I think it would be very difficult to achieve that. Having said that, there are jurisdictions that are beginning to punish the men equally with the women, and as it happens, in Illinois since 2011, our sheriff, Sheriff Dart, has been indicting just as many men as women and has been fining them large amounts, and 60% of the money of the fines go to help women who are in prostitution or who need assistance, and 40% go for juveniles. There are a couple other states that are doing that. My research shows that it's slowly spreading, that men are being charged just as much as women. I personally think they should be, but that again is also dependent on our prosecutors are elected. In our states, most are not appointed, and we have a democratic process, and so I think it's an issue of political will. In terms of special courts for human trafficking, most of our special courts have dealt with domestic violence, and almost all of our state courts deal with domestic and gender violence. And in terms of human trafficking, almost all the human trafficking cases have been prosecuted at the federal level, using the resources of the FBI, the IRS, and other organizations like that. Part of it is to do, to me, with the complexity of it. A lot of these crimes occur across state lines. The FBI has jurisdiction to do that. At the federal system, we have a lot more resources to investigate these kinds of crimes, and so we don't see them at the state court level, and we don't see them as specialized courts. And in the federal system, we don't have specialized courts. Now, does that mean that we don't have prosecutors that specialize in this area? Almost every U.S. Attorney's Office has a division, a human trafficking division, where prosecutors develop skills to deal with the cases. The law enforcement agencies like the FBI have human trafficking sections where they focus on human trafficking. So I think that answered that question. Was there another one that you had? Trafficking in organs. Trafficking in organs is not part of our human trafficking law, and it should be. That's my answer to that. It should be. I think it should be. Okay.
Thank you very much. You have now been provided with a copy, and it's been suggested that I read it out, because then it can be translated into the mother tongue of all participants. So I will do that. I will try to be fast. The first part is an introductory part, and then, as I already said, there are bullet points following. So, human trafficking and smuggling are two aspects of the same complex transnational and global crime that arise from organized crime. We do not hesitate to classify it as a crime against humanity, and therefore imprescriptible. The UN included Sustainable Development Goal 8.7, which provides take immediate and effective measures to eradicate forced labor, end modern slavery and human trafficking, and secure the prohibition and elimination of the worst forms of child labor, including recruitment and use of child soldiers, and by 2025, end child labor in all its forms. The African continent, and especially sub-Saharan Africa, is particularly affected by this crime. Poverty, destitution, lack of education, ignorance, lack of job opportunities, discrimination, gender bias, and social exclusion suffered by millions of people, as well as the indifferent or complicit gaze of governments and the international community, continue to worsen this situation. In this regard, Pope Francis, Pope Benedict XVI, and other religious leaders have described trafficking as the worst form of exclusion, proof of the globalization of indifference. Human trafficking manifests itself through sexual and reproductive exploitation, labor exploitation, through rural work and work for famous international brands in sweatshops, child pornography, organ trafficking, forced marriage, and bonded labor. Those who commit these abhorrent, it should read, so I'm gonna, and yeah. Crimes violate the inalienable dignity and integrity of other people, exploiting those situations of high vulnerability. They conceive them as instruments for the satisfaction of their lust, and consequently disposable. In this sense, His Holiness Pope Francis has argued that, sadly, our society is tainted by the culture of waste, which is the opposite of the culture of acceptance. And the victims of the culture of waste are those who are weakest and most frail, and this is indeed cruel, parentheses, date and visit to Krakow. It is imperative that states make a strong commitment to combat this crime in a coordinated way and eradicate corruption and complicity from state powers, strengthen judicial independence so that judges can decide without pressure and prosecutors investigate without obstacles. We insist on the need for states to create a compensation fund with money and goods from smugglers and traffickers aimed to provide full reparation for victims and provide them with housing and opportunities to lead a dignified life. In order that each of us can make our contribution to eradicate these inadmissible scourges, we, African women judges and prosecutors, participating in the Summit of African Women Judges and Prosecutors on Human Trafficking and Organized Crime, call for concrete and effective legislative, political, and judicial action that will contribute to preventing, punishing, and eradicating human trafficking. At the same time, we remind ourselves of our responsibility to use our expertise as judicial officers to promote measures that can ensure victims of trafficking can become full members of society and lead dignified lives. Legislation and legal measures. In order to combat human trafficking, we stress the need for imprescriptible, agile, and universal laws that work towards effective prevention of human trafficking, robust and professional investigations into these crimes, fair prosecutions of human trafficking crimes based on strong, credible, and reliable evidence, and judgments based on sound and, where appropriate, innovative legal reasoning that ensures fair trial rights for the accused, the rights of the victims, and serious nature of this crime that may be a crime against humanity. I'll just squiggle that there's some language to be adjusted here. We seek to guarantee access to free justice for victims, adopt measures to prevent their re-victimization, recognize their rights, in brackets, political, social, and economic, restore their freedom and dignity, provide them with tools for their empowerment, their economic independence, and the integral reparation of the damage. We support revisions of existing legislation as well as legal measures that can, and now the bullet points, implement into domestic legislation all regional and international conventions on human trafficking, provide a pro bono free legal assistance program for human trafficking victims, as well as those accused of human trafficking who cannot afford defense. Provide for reparation of victims of human trafficking, including monetary awards, access to education, housing, psychosocial counseling, medical treatment, economic independence. Create a special compensation fund for victims. Create a national and international common registry of offenders, in brackets, Interpol. Innovative procedural measures in court that will protect victims and limit re-traumatizing individuals who have suffered so much. Measures could include allowing for the admissibility of audio or video recorded statements of victims, testifying under a pseudonym, testifying from behind a curtain, making the courtroom victim-friendly, etc. Create incentives for victims to speak out and come forward, including in immigration laws. Create and foster national, international, and regional cooperation measures that allow for greater sharing of information, experiences, and expertise. Promote prosecution-led investigations that can respond to the complexities of the crime of human trafficking. Develop and share guidelines for judicial, border, and investigative state actors and civil society actors to promote and foster best practices in investigations and prosecutions. Create special units, in brackets, investigations, prosecutions. Create special courts. Mainstream a gender perspective among all judicial and investigative actors who deal with these crimes. Deliver judgments that condemn those who are found guilty, given the seriousness of this crime and the consequences for the victims. Develop sentencing protocols for these crimes. Make orders to ensure that assets of the accused are frozen and confiscated, and orders to provide reparations for victims. Direct confiscated proceeds of crime towards treatment and recovery of the victims, for social awareness campaigns and for the training and further education of judicial and police officers in order to fight these crimes more efficiently and effectively. Under the heading Social Policy/Education, the following bullet points. Encourage creative campaigns to raise awareness of the horror suffered by many individuals who are smuggled or trafficked to Europe, including, I'll put a squiggly under Europe because, yeah, we could discuss that if that's necessary, including radio dramas, comics, books, town hall meetings. Provide trainings of police, prosecutors, and judges involved in combating human trafficking. Sensitize and raise awareness among other partners who can help in the fight against trafficking, including employees at railway and bus stations and at airports. Promote a gender-sensitive environment. Collect relevant data on cases, including prosecutions and convictions. And now the last 2 points, one I would suggest, I'll read it, is we must order the confiscation and reuse of assets which are the result of organized crime, profits for human trafficking. This is a duplication, the way I see it at the moment. It could just be deleted because we have it above in a bullet point, would be a suggestion. And the last point is it is essential to prevent this crime that robs the lives of thousands of human beings all over the world and the future of entire peoples. For this reason, we recommend the adoption of the Nordic model, which has already been successfully implemented in several countries, when designing programs to fight prostitution, which we consider a crime against humanity. Now, if this last point is adopted as well, it could be added as one of the last bullet points under the heading social policy and education or legislative measures. You can decide that on your own. So at the moment, it's left hanging here a bit, but it can be moved into one of the measures that you think may be relevant. So yes, I hope everyone's understood the translation was good, and now I would, get your insights. So we'll start with Aisha and then Judge Nyako. And then
On the question of using the Nordic... On the question of using the Nordic model, I think that this is a thought that we can all leave with, and it's something we can all think about, particularly judges of appellate courts, high courts, and Supreme Court. That is, even if it's not formally introduced in your system, because we all have common law backgrounds, you can use a more victim-based narrative, use language and terminology, and reason it through your judgment as to why you think the consumer should be punished more severely and the victim need not be punished. There's no, it's not necessarily, it's something to think about, that is it necessary to punish the victim in that particular case, and through reasoning and through language, one could actually try and adopt the Nordic model without any formal legislative measures. So it's a thought.
Okay.
Yes?
Thank you. Yes? Ms. Judge Nyako, please, yes.
First of all, I'd like to say that under social policy/education, I don't know if the use of the word Europe, traffic to Europe, is really appropriate, because they're not only traffic to Europe. So I think we need to, and maybe we should include and other places.
Yeah, I think I agree. Unless there's strong opposition to this, I think we can take out Europe, or we add Europe and other places. But we can also just take it out, and then it's a general. Yes, there's.
Yes, I still have something else to say. We've talked a lot about organ trafficking, and nothing has been said about organ trafficking at all. I think we need to at least have one more bullet point that will bring out the issue of organ trafficking. I don't know if I would have thought we wasted so much time talking about it, and it doesn't reflect on the paper at all. No,
Can you make a recommendation?
As a recommendation.
Can you make a recommendation what you would like to have added on that subject?
Well, I thought we had mentioned that.
Write the text.
Okay, I write now.
And send to
Yeah.
Okay.
us.
I think that would be a very good idea. And
Okay,
it's
I'll do
in,
that.
and it'll be given the. But first, our Miss Judge my eyesight, Agemava. I'm sorry. On the question of Europe and other places, yeah, just quickly.
Yes, I would think that instead of saying just Europe and other places, we should make the specific countries, because the trafficking from Africa, it's not just into Europe. The Middle East is also one place which receives most of these trafficked people. So if we are specific in mentioning not just Europe, but with all other countries where it is an endemic problem.
Maybe we just say then from Africa, and that would include all the possible places that people from Africa could be trafficked to, because I think if we list many, many countries, we may also miss some countries. So maybe just leave out Europe and say smuggled, trafficked from Africa.
I was next. I was next.
Yes, just
Thank you.
briefly, please.
Yes, mine is, in case I am mistaken, we seem to have missed out the aspect of safe houses, so that we would put in, aim to establish or seek to support safe houses for the benefit of victims, something along those lines.
That's a good point. I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, I think it is included in the bullet point, provide housing, but I will have a look again.
I think it's a little bit different.
But we can include the name housing and the word housing and safe housing. We can do that.
I think, and perhaps if we can put it in the context
It's a
of aiming
support.
to establish, because, you
Yeah.
know, some places it may not happen.
Okay, okay, we're noting it down. So here.
Para acrescentar o posicionamento da juíza da Nigéria, a minha lei, por exemplo, de Angola, não inclui o tráfico dos órgãos. E concordo com ela que falamos muito... Não tem tradução?
You agree that there should be a point on organ trafficking? Is that what? Yeah?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Good. Or, yeah.
I don't understand. What do you say?
No, it's okay. I think you
I can speak?
If you're not
Eu já
in
tenho
it,
tradução.
you can add something, yes?
Assim, a proposta que a Nigéria vai inserir sobre o tráfico de órgãos é para que nos países como o meu, por exemplo, que tem a regulação contra o tráfico de seres humanos, inclua já também o tráfico de órgãos, porque, por exemplo, na nossa legislação tem tráfico de bens roubados, tem o lenocídio e outras formas, mas o tráfico de órgãos não está incluso. Era só essa proposta.
Okay, that's a very important point, which is, I would like to draw your attention to that the first point is implement into domestic legislation all regional and international conventions on human trafficking. So that includes organ trafficking, forced labor, every single issue that under modern day conventions are included under the headline human trafficking, just for your information, but the focus will be put on organ trafficking as well.
Yeah. Thankfully. I just wanted to add that looking at the points, we missed something, and that is the speedy trial on of these cases. I've looked through, I didn't see anywhere where we're talking about the need for speedy trial. Because if we do not conduct speedy trial, our witnesses just disappear.
Okay, I think that is an important point. What I can, I think a bit of what you're saying is included as we say effective and efficient justice. Which is supposed to address this issue. I am being told that we should wrap up pretty soon, so if there are additional, yes, we'll collect three comments now before we wrap up. Is that a good compromise, I think, unless otherwise they'll be mad here. I'm kidding. Okay, so 1, Malawi, and then here, Malawi, and then Kenya, right? It's Kenya, yeah. Okay, and then that's it.
Merci. C'est juste une préoccupation par rapport à la demande de ma collègue qui souhaite qu'on puisse inclure le trafic d'organes. Alors, moi, je me dis, avant qu'on ne puisse le faire, il faut que nous puissions définir cela, puisque nous parlons de trafic des êtres humains. Alors, avant d'inclure cela directement, je pense qu'il faudrait peut-être dire que nous assimilons le trafic des organes
au trafic des êtres humains qui peut peut-être être une autre forme de trafic des êtres humains. Donc je pense que cette précision doit être incluse.
I think has resonated, that message, and that will be included in Judge Nyako's proposal, that there will need to be specific laws addressing this issue. So I think you're right. Yes, our colleague from Malawi, please.
Thank you so much.
Which doctors as well in organ trafficking? Target which doctors in organ trafficking?
Okay. I had 2 comments, but now I'll make 3 very quickly. I'll start with the one that my colleague has pointed out, that maybe if in the communique we highlighted that when it comes to organ trafficking, we should find ways of targeting witch doctors. Maybe for other regions, it might not be a big problem, but in Africa it is. And if we highlighted these witch doctors as a cause of organ trafficking it's an area that needs to be thought of. It should be highlighted. And then I was also going to say that I am of the view that we should not leave out Middle East. I'm going back to an issue that was closed, to Europe and Middle East on that point that was made. Why? As those who are well versed in speech writing will know one thing. When we are writing speeches for ministers or anybody there are certain issues you must demonstrate that you considered. And I am of the view that in order to show that we are aware of the problems of Africa right now, we really need to highlight Europe and the Middle East. Not that we're excluding other countries, but this is a big problem. If we leave these out, other people who know what a communique should contain will be surprised we're here and left out these problems. And then the third one, unfortunately, it has slipped my mind.
That's fine. You may remember, and there is still time to bring this to the attention of the organizers, I hope. So do not worry. What I would suggest is that you please also bring your views here to Judge Nyako so that the combination of your concerns, organ trafficking, targeting witch doctors, as a fundamental, if that is as fundamental to, as you say, then I think this would be a good way of bundling and then transmitting to the organized traffic. And maybe we can highlight this smuggling from Africa, especially to Europe and the Middle East, that is open enough, but it highlights what you say. So we could maybe suggest that to the drafters. So we'll write that suggestion down. My colleague from Kenya.
Okay, thank you so much. Maybe just to cater on the issue of speedy trials, I see we had talked about create special courts. So maybe just to make it more clearer on the issue of the special courts so that it can capture what Judge was saying from Nigeria. And then on the issue of having maybe
Could you just say what it is that you wanted included and where? Then we
on
can
the
get ready.
special courts, that we can modify that so that it's just not create special courts, so that we need to know the special courts are for what. So it's more specific or more rounded, yeah. And then on the issue of information gathering and data, I thought it would be good if we also modify on the issue of either getting like a bench book or a case digest so that we can gather information on these cases or on these issues that are coming up, highlighting from the various countries. We can share it as like a training material on those special cases from these countries on what experiences they have done so that we can share. And I liked what you had said about Malawi, how they had done their presentation on the research and the data gathering. So that way we don't have to keep saying the issue about data gathering all the time, but then let's just also have a tool already set out so that we can be able now to get that information and process it through the various countries which are here.
Okay, yes. Your comments now, and then I do have to discuss quickly with the organizers on how they want to proceed, okay? So, but please go ahead.
Okay. All right. I'm looking at page 2, the last bullet, create and foster national, international, and regional cooperation. And then I'm a little bit concerned that, Africa is quite diverse. We're from very different jurisdiction. So I would suggest that maybe we be very specific in terms of the how part of how are we going to create and foster all of us here to be in continual contact with these issues. And one of them, of course, is to take advantage of the exactly IT and where we can communicate like real live issues as they're happening in our countries. So
Yes, I think I absolutely agree. These bullet points, the way they are drafted, my impression is that they are supposed to give just goals now. They're not going to be, for every one of these points, you have to become more specific in the way you implement them. They're goals now. So I think I agree with you.
But okay, on this one, sorry. On this one, I think we all need to agree because I think it speaks to all of us communicating with each other.
I agree. Now we need the organizers, though, to give us some heads up on how they want to proceed generally with this process here.
Hola, estimadas colegas. He intentado, estas conclusiones las hemos hecho durante las 2 jornadas y hemos intentado receptar, recoger cada una de las posturas. Seguramente hay cuestiones de redacción o para clarificar mejor que yo lo voy a hacer personalmente. Ahora con lo que ustedes me están diciendo, es más, si quieren alcanzarme un texto, para ser incluido, con mucho gusto lo voy a hacer. La idea es que todas estemos de acuerdo, esto es una declaración, todas con buena fe hemos venido acá a tratar este doloroso drama humano que es el tráfico y trata de personas, y trataremos de hacer lo mejor posible, la mejor declaración posible, para de aquí empezar a trabajar entre todas y, como dijo Monseñor, y respondiendo a la invitación de su santidad, volver en un año, más o menos para esta época, para ver qué hizo cada una de nosotras, si tenemos una donadora que nos ayude, una benefactora que nos ayude, como en este caso Jennifer Gross, vamos a poder volver y decir qué hizo cada una de nosotras después de esta declaración de intenciones en sus países y en su región. Hoy las nuevas tecnologías nos pueden ayudar a estar en contacto, a intercambiar doctrina, jurisprudencia, buenas experiencias, sentencias novedosas. Así que esa es la idea. Y si están de acuerdo, me hacen llegar los párrafos que ustedes creen que tienen que estar incluidos en esta declaración. Con mucho gusto lo haremos. Y Monseñor nos ha invitado a firmar un libro donde va a estar incluida esta declaración. Por supuesto, la firma del libro es voluntaria, ¿no? Yo ya lo he hecho en años anteriores y por eso estamos comprometidas en el combate contra el tráfico y la trata de personas, ya desde hace algunos años, con la IAWJ.
I just agree with you, and I think personnellement, je crois que donc la formulation qu'elle est devant nous, elle est parfaite. Alors, pour mes collègues qui parlaient de trafic d'organes, mais c'est une forme d'exploitation. Donc, je ne sais pas, c'est une forme de traite. Donc, pourquoi spécifier? Peut-être on s'est un peu entré dans le détail, vu la spécificité de quelques pays, mais je trouve, on est des juristes, on est des magistrats, donc légalement parlé, la traite englobera ça. Donc c'est pour cela la formulation, par exemple, moi je suis tout à fait d'accord, on n'a pas besoin de... parce que chaque pays a sa spécificité. Donc voilà, je crois que je suis claire, ça dépend de la définition qu'on a. Voilà.
Sí, por eso he tratado de hacer lo más general posible, porque si entramos en cuestiones específicas, ahí es donde podemos tener alguna diferencia. Me parece que en la generalidad nos permite trabajar con mayor libertad.
And it's good because this can represent me, but if there is something other specifically, we don't have this in our country, I think it will be not, you know.
Yeah. Okay, I have Judge Williams with a last suggestion for the evening, and I think all of our discussions in detail and in depth, I hope you can continue over dinner and in the coming year in the networking that you are able to do amongst yourselves. And yes, so Judge Williams, one last suggestion.
So I know a lot of us were taking notes on the presentations, and a lot of you have prepared papers and you prepared your slides. I think it would be a good idea for those to be posted so we could have access to those. There was a lot of really good information that was shared here, and I think it would be really helpful if we could all have access to that.
Gabrielle is going to say something now on that.
Okay.
Sí, estuve hablando con Monseñor y la idea es hacer una publicación online donde estén todas las presentaciones, todos los trabajos, los speech que se han presentado acá, para que todas podamos leerlo, incluso con fotografías, recordatorias de lo que ha sido este evento fantástico, que por primera vez las juezas y las fiscales del continente africano se reúnen para tratar este tema. Es un hecho histórico, en verdad. Sé que África es muy diferente. Una cosa son los países del norte, los países del sur, la África subsahariana. Todos tienen diferente identidad, diferente cultura, diferente legislación. Eso lo sabemos. Yo vengo del continente americano, donde es algo parecido también. Pero tenemos que buscar los puntos de encuentro, los puntos en los que nos parecemos, no las diferencias. Nos tienen que unir los puntos en los que somos parecidos y empezar a trabajar. De eso se trata, ¿no?
So is the session concluded? Susanna, do you want to conclude the session? Is that it? Then I wish everybody a nice dinner, and thank you for the great
Jennifer.
participation.
Muchas gracias. Yo quiero agradecer, si me permiten, quiero agradecer en primer lugar a nuestros observadores, la hermana Eugenia Bonetti, Omar Aliche Coumaina, Francesca Romana Cocci, Stefano Marino, María Monteleone, Albert Picani, Madeleine Schwartz, Leonie von Braun. Agradecer muy especialmente al presidente de la Academia, el profesor von Braun, a su hija que nos ha acompañado acá, por supuesto a Jennifer Gross que hizo posible este evento, al equipo técnico de la Academia, un aplauso porque han estado trabajando durante 2 días a full, y por supuesto un fuerte y caluroso aplauso para nuestro anfitrión, Monseñor Sánchez Orondo, que está cumpliendo 50 años de su ordenación sacerdotal. No, es una palabra de 50 años.
So thank you very much. Of course, thank for my collaborators, especially in this case, the two daughters of the engineer Marino that are here, and of course Aldo and the other that work but are not visible here. So I think really because this is very strong work, and also someone has problem of health because they work. So we need to be. But for yes, I received a very nice letter from the Holy Father, and I replied this letter to thank to the Holy Father Francis, but also to other popes that I serve, especially John Paul II, that was appointed me to be Chancellor here, and Pope Benedict, that was member of the Academy. So very near relation with this Pope. And of course, I am very happy to be Chancellor because I receive many things in these meetings for the members of the Academy, but also for the friends of the Academy like you. And especially I'm very happy to this meeting with women judges because they are very concretely and intelligent and dedicated to his profession. So thank you very much. But I don't understand if you want to sign or not.
Yes.
Yes,
please,
okay.
Pero no tengo la lapicera, ¿no?
But that is not problem. We can offer a pen.